All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mickey, and this is Harvest Moon Farm. And today is going to be the third video in the recipe swap series that I am doing with Stacy at Farmer's Wife Homestead. Today, this week we are doing main dishes. So today I'm going to make a mince and cheese pie. She had to tell me what mince was because I wasn't sure, because when I tried to look it up, all I got was mince meat. It's actually just a ground meat. The first thing that we need is some onion. And basically this is just a ground, I'm using ground beef, a ground beef, onion and cheese mixture baked into a pie crust. Sounds delicious. I'm super excited. So I'm going to go ahead and get some onion chopped up. So this onion, you'll notice that they are very small. These are the onions that came out of my garden that started out so well, and then like everything else in the garden was pretty stunted. So they are still good, so I don't want to not use them. They're just small. So we're going to go ahead and kind of dice this up. Oops, got some. That outside layer of skin on this onion though is thicker than a normal full-size onion, so it's kind of hard to make sure that you get all of that onion off. So I just have two of these small onions that I'm going to use rather than one whole onion, or one regular size onion. These are whole onions, I guess. So I'm going to get these diced up. The recipe also calls for garlic powder, which I do not have. I have garlic salt, so I am not going to use that. I'm instead going to put some garlic cloves in with my onion and cook those up. I'm just going to go ahead and mince it into my pan with my onion, and we'll do it that way. I was at the grocery store earlier making sure that I had all the ingredients, and for some reason I was thinking that I did have some garlic powder, but what I actually had was onion powder. Alright, so there's that. And these onions are little, but they are strong. Oh my goodness. Alright, let's see here. I'm going to get out a couple. That's probably plenty. So I'm going to go ahead and put this onion skin and the ends in our compost. These are frozen, so they're a little bit harder to work, but they take almost no time at all to go ahead and thaw enough to get minced. And if you have unpeeled garlic, you can run them through the mincer and the peel will stay inside it. But these are peeled, so I want to make sure I get out whatever garlic was inside. Alright, so we're going to go move over to the stove and we're going to start cooking this down. Alright, so I am going to put just a little bit of olive oil in my pan to cook these onions and garlic down. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get this onion and garlic in my skillet. And then while that's cooking, we're going to go ahead and get our, oops, our oven preheated to 180 degrees Celsius or about 355 Fahrenheit. So I just want to cook this in here until this starts browning a little bit and releasing all of its fragrance. Okay, this is starting to smell really good. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my ground beef. I'm just using a 1 pound package since it's just me and my husband. The instructions say to use 500 grams of your meat, and that will make a family size mince pie. We just want to brown whatever meat you're using, and I'm using my little meat, I don't know what this thing is called, to make sure that your whatever kind of meat you're using gets cooked down into similar sized pieces, so kind of crumbles. And if you use meat that has more grease to it, you can drain it before you add all the rest of the ingredients. Mine is not very greasy. It's a raised grass-finished beef, so it has hardly any grease in it when you cook it. So I won't need to drain mine, but you can if your meat ends up being a little bit greasy. Now, I did not think to ask Stacy what kind of sides you would typically have with this. So I think we're just going to have some green beans because we definitely need a veggie with this. We just want to keep cooking this until our meat is done, nice and brown. It smells really good. And you just, as it's cooking, you just want to keep mashing your meat down so that it ends up pretty evenly sized. Okay, so my meat is all cooked here. And so this is the point where if you had extra grease, you would want to go ahead and drain it off. So now the recipe calls for a cup of beef stock. I'm not going to use a full cup since I'm not using as much meat. And I'm actually not even going to, measure. Just going to pour some in there. We want some salt and pepper, not too much. If you did not use garlic, as I did at the beginning, here's where you would use a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. You want a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. And I'm kind of eyeballing some of this since I'm not using the full amount of meat. And then 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, or you could substitute tomato sauce if you wanted to. I'm going to use tomato paste. I bought this tomato paste that you can buy in a tube. It's super concentrated. So I am going to just squeeze a little bit out there, maybe a couple teaspoons based on the amount of other ingredients that I have. And now we're going to turn our heat down. Go ahead and stir all this in. Oh my gosh, this smells really good. Alright, so now I'm going to turn this down to medium. I didn't already say that. And then we're just going to let this cook about 15 minutes or so until most of our liquid has kind of evaporated off. While that's cooking, we're going to go ahead and get the pie plate ready. or I guess we're gonna get the pastry portion ready. And I know I said I was gonna make green beans, but when I opened my refrigerator, I saw some fresh lettuce and I'm really craving a salad, so I think that's what we're gonna have with it. Okay, so let me get the recipe in. So the actual instructions for the crust says 1 sheet of short crust pastry and then 1 sheet of flaky pastry. You can make your own or you can buy some. So what I bought was 1 pie, just pre-made pie crust that you can buy here in the US, pre-rolled or pre-made. You just unroll it, you know, like that. So I'm going to use my rolling pin and I'm going to roll this out just a little bit because I'm going to use this. Let's see, do I know what size this is? Alright, well this is an 8 by 8. I don't know what the capacity is. I thought it might say on there. But that's what I'm going to use instead of a pie plate. So I'm just going to roll this out into kind of a square-ish shape that will fit my pan. Oh, I just scraped my fingernail across it. Like this. And we're just going to fit it into our baking dish like this. Pull it up the sides. Now, I kind of waffled back and forth about what I wanted to do for my top. So originally I thought that I would buy like a phyllo dough and use that. And then I changed my mind, and what I actually bought was the crescent rolls that come in a tube, because if I roll those out and just press them together to make a single top, it will give us that super flaky top that I think we want here. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know if that'd be the best way to do it, but that's what we're going to try. Just looking at these instructions and this pie, I think you could probably add lots of different things into your meat mixture. You could probably add small chunks of potatoes, some corn or peas or carrots, really probably anything that you wanted, and make this more like a soup or stew mixture that goes in your pie. And I think that would be delicious too. But for today, we're just going to mostly follow the instructions as much as I could. All right, so our meat mixture is just about gotten all the water evaporated out. So now we're going to add, or the juice, I guess, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of water and 2 tablespoons of corn flour, or here in the US we call it cornstarch. That's going to be our thickener for our filling. Yep. Okay, so we're gonna mix our cornstarch and water together and then add it to the recipe. And actually, since my recipe is less than the original recipe, I'm just going to do 1 tablespoon of each. All right, so we're just going to mix those together. And the reason you want to mix these together is that it incorporates into your recipe. It incorporates into your recipe better when you mix it with water or some other liquid to begin with. Okay, so we're going to leave our temperature on medium. We're going to add our water and cornstarch mixture, and we're going to stir that into our filling. And we're just going to let it cook for a few minutes until we end up with a nice thick gravy. And I think maybe I might need a little bit more water. And typically it only takes a few minutes for that to start thickening up, and it is thickening up. All right, I'm going to turn that off. Whoa. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and add this to our dish. And this dish actually is probably a little bit deeper than what I needed. It's only about half full. That is okay. Okay, so now the next thing that we want to do, we want to let this cool just for a minute. And then we want to add some cheese. So the recipe calls for 8 slices of cheese, and it doesn't say what kind, so I'm guessing you can just use whatever cheese you like. Or you can use a shredded cheese if that's what you have, and that's what I have. So I am using a sharp cheddar, and I'm just going to sprinkle it over the top in a sort of thinnish layer, based on how the picture looks with the slices. Try and get kind of that level of thickness of cheese, even though I'm a cheese person, so I could just load it down and be completely happy. Okay, there's our cheese. Now we're going to go ahead and put our top crust on, which, remember, I am just going to use a crescent roll and make my crust, a crescent roll tube, and make my crust out of that. Just double check my instructions. Okay. So this is what I'm using. If you're not from the US, I don't know if you have these in New Zealand or wherever you may. So this is just a Walmart brand of crescent rolls. There we go. All right. So what I'm going to do is take half of this and so if you've never seen these, this is just how this comes. So you've got 4 crescent rolls here that you would normally separate and then roll into your classic crescent shape. I am going to roll these together. They're kind of not cooperating very well. So I'm gonna just kind of press them with my fingers. And I thought I would only need half of this too, but I think because of the way that they are rolling out, I'm going to use the whole thing. But so I want to press these together so that it's like a single sheet. I'm going to roll it out just a little bit. And then, okay, now this may not have been the best to top it with, so it may not look as pretty as, say, the picture on the recipe, but I think it's going to be really delicious. And I don't think I need to cut any steam vents in the top because the crescent top is not completely sealed together. So I went ahead and just rolled over the bottom crust a little bit over this crescent topping. And then our oven is hot, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in, and we're going to cook it 35 to 40 minutes. And because we want to make sure that our bottom crust is completely cooked, and we want our top to be nice and golden brown, and we want the whole thing to be bubbly. So here's what we've got. So this is going to go into the oven for 35 minutes. All right, so I'll be back when that comes out of the oven, or I'm going to check it at 35 minutes. If I think it needs another 5, we'll go ahead and set it. But we'll check it and see Then we'll get it out of the oven, we'll let it cool for a few minutes and cut into it and see if it tastes as good as it smells. All right, so while that's cooking, actually, I'm gonna go ahead and cut up some lettuce. And cut this up so we can have our salad. I'm also gonna slice up a cucumber, and we'll just have that as our sides. So we've got cucumbers in our own garden, and we've got cucumbers that our neighbors have been giving us. So I'll set those to the side and we'll have that nice fresh green along with our hot kind of meat pie. So we'll be back. All right, so thanks for watching my video where I made Stacy's recipe. Make sure you head over to Farmer's Wife Homestead and watch Stacy's video where she is making my chili that I typically make along with some skillet cornbread to go with it. It's one of our favorites, especially in the fall and winter, which it is cold in New Zealand now, so it is their fall and winter. So it's a perfect dish for her to make for her and her family. So make sure you head on over and check that out. And I think we've got one more in this series. We're gonna do a video where we do pies. So make sure you stick around for those. They'll come out in a week. And I thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.